Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. We've talked about this before. I speak of this all the time. Even last night, I was on the phone with somebody, part of a men's group I'm in, and talking about healing from trauma. It's huge. We've talked about this in the past with her. Today, we're going to go even deeper and talk about healing shame. What is shame? Why do we need to heal from it? What is this all about? This is Transformational Thursdays with Tamara Grob, and she is a life coach, and I'm calling her an energy warrior. She's an expert at this because it's all about energy. How you doing today?
Doing really well, Steve. Thank you. How are you?
Fantastic. And this is our first Zoom. We've done audio podcasts before. If you're listening, great. You can also find this online, YouTube and such on the video version. What is the importance of healing shame? What is shame? What is this all about?
Right. So shame isn't really an emotion, okay? Shame is something that can become part of someone's identity. And this is why it's so important to heal, because shame is, to me, the most toxic feeling that we can hold within our bodies, because shame comes from an external event or source. Okay, it's never who we are. It's never what we are inside, but we are made to feel that way. And that's why it's so toxic. So to me, it's the feeling that has to be removed from the body in order for further healing to take place. So basically, just to reiterate, shame is something that comes if someone says to themselves, oh, I did a terrible thing, therefore I am a terrible person. Do you see that? I am. No, you're not. But that's what gets imprinted in the body. Or what's even worse is something was done to that person, something happened to them, and then they basically imprint that it's their fault, because perhaps when this event or experience happened to them, they were never believed. They were never seen or heard. So their experience wasn't validated. And then that just basically eats away at you inside. It's embedded in the body, and it becomes a toxic cycle. So toxic shame needs to be seen. It needs to be heard. It needs to be felt. It needs to be believed, because that's the only way that it will eventually be able to leave the body.
Wow.
And that's how I work.
How do you know that you have shame and/or toxic shame?
Well, you feel it. You feel it. But when I'm working with someone, they're going to probably talk to me and share an experience or a story. And what I'm picking up on are the cues. They could be physical cues. It could be the way they're not telling me something, but I feel that in them because I'm feeling the energy. So everyone carries shame in them, but to different degrees. And so eventually, if the client, and I'll explain, I create a very, very safe space. I create what's called a healing bubble. And if the client feels that safety with me, they then can share their story or whatever part of their story they wish to share, because that's the part that gets believed, if you understand what I mean.
Sure.
So everyone carries shame in them, and it's up to be the coach, the facilitator, to pick up on the cues. And they may not come out and tell me, oh, I feel shame about this. It's very rare, actually, that the client will say that. It's up to the coach to do the work and to feel that, and to gently have them have that feeling come up in their body. And so what I do is there are 3 key steps to healing shame. And this is something that I've learned because I studied a lot of Dr. David Bedrick's work. He is quite a pioneer in the field of unshaming. That is his whole body of work. He's a lawyer, he's an educator, he's a coach, he's an author, he's a public speaker, and he basically has probably spent the past 30 years studying shame, and he even has an institute in Santa Fe, Mexico, for unshaming. And I find that this technique, it's not even a technique, it's just the way that you work with people is so powerful. So the first step basically is seeing the person. And by seeing, I mean basically holding them with no judgment. You see them for who they are, not what they've done, not what's been done to them, not what they believe, just who they are, their essence. So that's the first step. When I see a client, I then want them to be able to show me what they're feeling. And so this is where I ask them to describe to me, well, can you give, because it's very difficult to talk about shame, but can you physicalize it? Can you give it a color? Can you give it a shape? Can you show me with your hands? And a lot of times the hands will be very contracted. You can see the pain. You can see what they're holding in. When the client can do that, that means they've been able to show me, I have seen them. So then we can move to the next step, which is feeling that shame in their body. And that is basically what I call sensory grounding. I want them to feel that they are being witnessed, that they're being seen and their story is believed. Now, when they're feeling all of this, I am moved by what they're telling me. I am empathic, but I'm not being pulled into their story. And there's a big difference. As a coach, I can't help my client if I'm being pulled in. I have to remain, I've got to hold that higher vibration for my client, but I can show that I am moved by what they're telling me because maybe no one ever did that for them before. During that feeling stage, this is where I might incorporate, and this is always with the client's consent, some of my healing techniques, some of my healing modalities. So I might do some Reiki on them, or I might do, I'm certified in another modality called Rahani Celestial, or I might transmit light codes through light language. And all of this is something that is basically pulling in higher frequencies, right? Like we have energy, we're all energy, and we have energy inside of us, but we also have access to energy outside of us. Our energy is limited, right? That's why we can feel depleted at the end of the day or around certain people or around certain environments. But the energy that we can pull from, whatever you want to call it, God, source, the universe, and also from the earth, because we are part of both, is limitless. And so that's what you do as an energy healer. It's not like you're magically healing people. You're literally becoming like a channel for this higher frequency, limitless energy. And you're allowing it to flow through you into the client, and you're activating the client's energy and ability to heal. Because
So, question on that point, on the energy point here. They have challenging energy, whatever you want to call it, with shame, stuck energy, negative energy, however we phrase it. How do you change their energy as a conduit from source, whatever, universe, through you to them? Are you changing their energy? Are you giving them more because maybe it's depleted? How does that work?
I'm not changing their energy. Again, it's not like I have the power to do that. What I'm doing is I'm opening their channels. I'm helping them to clear, as you said, the stuck energy, the blockages that are there. So as I'm channeling, as I'm allowing this higher frequency energy to flow through me, often it's through my hands, some in my eyes, I'm clearing it for them. Now, the client has to be open to this.
Sure.
Okay. If the client doesn't believe in this, doesn't, this is, as you put it, woo-woo, this is nonsense. No, it's not going to work. You have to trust, you have to believe, and you have to be able to accept and receive it, right? With the trust of that I've developed with my client. But that's what it is. It's a clearing so that their energy starts to flow within them. And that is what begins the healing process. It's their own energy that now is flowing more freely through their body that was once blocked and stagnant.
Now, you said energy is limitless. Does that mean that once we clean up their energy with your help, that more can come their way? Like, got rid of this. Now there's like a gas tank. I got more space now. Let me put some more energy in, or it can flow through them however it happens. Or are we set with a certain amount of energy? We just need to clean it up.
No, we can pull and access from this limitless source of energy. That's exactly what I'm trying to explain.
Gotcha.
But to do that, you do have to clear your
Yes.
block. And
Yes.
that's the process. That's not a one-time thing because, as you know, we live in a world where we're constantly bombarded with negative energy, negative thoughts, negative environments, right?
Sure.
So it's a process where you can clear your energy. And that can be done through, I talked a lot about the techniques of breath work, right? Moving the body, that moves energy through you. The whole shaking process, the whole thing of moving, dancing, music, all of that moves energy through you. Or you can do it, if people prefer to do it in a calmer way, such as through yoga or meditation or qigong. There are many different ways, but this process of clearing energy, it's something that really should be done quite often. But when you've had someone that has held shame in for most of their life, that is a very, very difficult blockage. It's been there for a long, long time. So that's why someone would come to someone like me, where I will facilitate and help that clearing. And it may not be in one session. It may require quite a few sessions. So the feeling part is extremely important because that's the part where you start to release the blockages and you allow the energy to start flowing through the client. And often I see the change. I can see like the face relaxing. I can see the body sort of just, before where there might have been tension and I can see the body relaxing in my client.
Mm.
And then we can move to the final step, which is believing the client. And when you believe your client, you believe their story, you believe their truth, you believe their feelings, you believe their emotions, they are witnessed. And you have created that space for them. They are validated. And because that's what they need. That is the step that's needed to release the shame. And by me witnessing the client and completely believing and accepting their story with no judgment, I shift them into a state where they then go within and they accept themselves. Because you see, that's what shame does. Shame causes a person to not go within themselves, to believe what is right for them, to believe what's right about them. They go outside and they look at external sources, such whatever it is, parents, family, friends, authorities in religion or media or whatever, that tells them that something's wrong with them. And they believe it. So this process that I do shifts that belief to their belief. They believe in themselves no matter what anyone else says. It's like a process of becoming almost immune, where you don't care what other people think or say about you. So those are the steps that I use to get the client to that point. And that's where the true healing happens and the shame can actually be moved out of the body.
What you just said, the last part there, sounds almost foundational. That is the secret of life, getting to the point where you don't need validation here, there, everywhere. You've got it from within
Right.
to believe that, you know, you're good. I mean, just the quiet, I call it the quiet calm when you get to that point. It's just
Mhm.
like, hey, I'm comfortable in my skin. That's a cliche, but maybe that means something there.
Yeah, no, you're putting it really, it's perfectly the way you're stating it. It is exactly that. I call it reaching 0 point or neutrality,
Hmm.
because it being neutral doesn't mean that you don't care about things, but what it means is you have that balance, okay, of like, okay, so this is happening, this is being said or done, but it's not affecting me because I don't take it personally. And this goes back to the 4 agreements that I talked about in a podcast we did quite a few weeks ago. And one of the first, I believe it's the second one, is don't take anything personally. Because whatever someone says or does, or it has nothing to do with you. It is a projection of that other person's beliefs or systems or their wounds and trauma being projected onto you. And of course, it's difficult not to take things personally because we're human. But at the same time, this is how you move through this process of life. This is how you get there, where you can care about people, but you don't have to care about what they say or do to you. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's a tough,
It's a
it's tough,
tough.
it's tough work.
It really is because what do we want? Everybody wants to be loved. So when people do things and you could be doing everything for one person and then they appreciate it, but then they don't, or they send you signals, then you take it personally. And then you get frustrated, then you question yourself, then there's self-doubt, and then all that comes in. It's almost if you have to be the force field, the deflector. No, really? That's it? Good.
Yeah. And that's kind of, maybe I'll talk about that on another podcast, because you can actually shield yourself energetically. You can actually create force fields energetically that allow in, love and compassion, but not the negativity. So there are techniques, and I'm not saying, I mean, yeah, it's like, I love Star Wars, okay, and I love the whole Jedi thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And I love that, because that's part of like the process of what we become when we do choose to stand in our truth and in our power. That's the key, okay? That's the key to not being so affected, is when you know who you are, know thyself. That's what it means. If you know who you are, you cannot, it won't affect you. It just won't. Or if it does, it'll be that you can move through it so much faster, because you'll understand that it really has nothing to do with you. So if we could get to that point, I think we'd be living in a very different world.
How do you stay the course? Let's say you relatively are in the zone of what we're talking about, where you've to laser this, you've figured it out, or with the help of somebody like you figured it out. But sometimes your force field's not always going to work. Things are going to permeate. How do you stay here as opposed to, being like that?
Again, it's a process, right? You've got to pull on some of the techniques that I teach. Breathing, coming back to the breath, is
Okay.
always the pause, the breath, right? But there are techniques that I teach to my clients. If we have time during a session, we might do it, but this is more something that I have them do at home. It's a technique called swamping, and it was developed by a very powerful feminine empowerment coach. She's also an author, a public speaker, Regina Thomas Shower. She's also known as Mama Gina. And this is a technique that you can do on your own, or you can do it with someone that you trust, a good friend or friends, because when you have more energy coming together, it's amplified. And what it does is it moves you through emotions. So the first emotion that you want to move through, which most people hold, is anger or rage, right? Because we hold a lot of that in, because we're in a lot of situations in our life where we can't express it, right? As I said, we've been told from a young age that anger, showing it, throwing temper tantrums, it's
Sure.
not good. So the first thing is to move that through you, and that you can put on loud music, music that almost feels aggressive, right? And you can do things to express that anger, like punch the air, punch a pillow, scream, shout. You have to do this in the privacy of your own home, obviously, where you feel safe. But when you get that out of you, it's almost like the body just like deflates almost, because that anger is just such a powerful emotion. When that's moved through the body, then I have them move through sadness and grief. And so there you'll change the music. You'll put like sad music on or slower music, and you cry, or you hold yourself, or you just curl up into the fetal position, whatever helps you to move the sadness and the grief through you. Because grief is another emotion that's also very, very, very difficult to move through the body, and it's often not facilitated very well. And then finally, when you just feel like, okay, it's almost like you're emptying yourself, then you move into the energy of love. And that's where you put really beautiful, harmonious music, very uplifting music. And that's where you smile and you laugh and you dance and you hug yourself. It's moving through those emotions. Now, of course, you can't do this if you're in public and something happens to you. But what I'm saying is this is a practice that you can do at home.
Hmm.
And it's literally moving through the main range of emotions that we go through as humans practically on a daily basis.
Would you do that exercise, those three key elements, within one session? Like, all right, I've got a half hour. I'm gonna move through all of these. I'm gonna do the rage, take care of the sadness, and then feel love. Can you do that? Maybe not saying 30 minutes and I'll be done, but with a relatively shorter period of time, moving through one to the other to the other.
can, absolutely. I mean, my sessions are longer. They're an hour, so there is time to do that if the client wishes to do that with me. But again, it all depends. It all depends. If you're holding a tremendous amount of anger and rage inside of you, you might need more time to go through that particular step, right? I work at their pace. I will see. If you still need to work out the anger and the rage, okay, keep working that out. We
Sure,
don't
sure.
remove the grief and sadness yet. So, but yes, if it can be done, and I have done it with clients, I do it myself. It's, as I said, I practice what I preach. I wouldn't be able to
Totally.
help clients if I wasn't able to do it myself. And like I said, it all depends on how much is being held in the body. Every client is different. So if I see that they still need more time on the anger part or the grief part, that's it. We still work on that until they
Mm.
get to the point where I want to get the client to not feel overwhelmed anymore by the emotions. Okay. So I work at their pace. I feel into, how much they can take, how far they can go.
Sure.
And then we get to the point where it's not overwhelming anymore. It might be uncomfortable, but it's not overwhelming. And then eventually we get to the point where the discomfort isn't there anymore. We get to that point, that neutral point, where it can still come up, it will still come up, but there isn't going to be that reaction to the emotion that there was before. They're able to move through the emotion because, as I said, that's what emotions are, energy in motion. So
Isn't
they,
it amazing? You can go from here to here in a minute,
yes, you can.
depending on your thinking. There's lyrics to a song, and it just popped in my head. It's called "Part of the Plan." Came out by Dan Fogelberg back in the 70s. It wasn't even a hit, it was an album track, and it says, "I have these moments all steady and strong. I'm feeling so holy and humble. The next thing I know, I'm all worried and weak, and I feel myself starting to crumble." Like you could go from here to here in in the same situation, but you just look at it in a different way. It's
Yeah.
amazing how when you can feel that, how you can turn your life around. And that's why I focused on this exercise with the three elements here, because I wondered if you can do all three, or let me just focus on rage right now, and I'll get to sadness and love later. Should you do all three, or is it okay to just focus on one at a time?
Yeah, like I said, it depends. If you really feel that you have to work more on one emotion, then work more on that.
Yeah,
You don't need to get to, that point in just a few minutes or 30. There's no time limit, is what I mean. But you want to be able to move through it at some point. You want to get to the love stage because that's what it's all about. It's about that self-love,
for
that
sure.
self-worth inside of you. So if you need a day to work out the anger or rage, take the day. There's
Right.
no time limit, is what
Gotcha.
it is.
Hmm.
So
And that kind of explains why, going to the gym and kickboxing and punching the bag feels so good.
it's
I'm
physical
serious.
exercise.
That
It's one of the things, it is. It really is. You have to move it.
that said, um, should you set the intention? Like when you're releasing, call it the rage, we're in that stage. Should it be you're thinking about what is causing the anger, all of that, focusing on that, and then doing your thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you can. You can actually focus on a person if you want, because you're not hurting
That's all right. Well,
anyone.
thanks for saying that. That's what I was saying. It's exactly where I was
Nothing
going.
wrong with that. You're
Yeah.
punching the air, you're punching a pillow. You do it in a safe way.
Yeah, sure.
But get it out of you. That's exactly it. And this is why you want to eventually get to the love stage, because when you have that love inside of you, it's not going to matter. It won't matter anymore. And that, if you were thinking of a particular person when you were punching the pillow, that image will go away. It will not be able to interfere with you because it's like you've created this love shield in a way. So
Exactly.
that's
Wow.
what you want to get to.
Super cool. Thank you for all of this today. You presented in such a crystal clear way. And honestly, I can't wait to do that exercise. I really can't. Like it just seems like it's so empowering, and we need to purge. Yes, we don't want to walk around being sad. Do I want to, cry later? No, but scientifically proven, we all need to. We need to let it out. If there's something inside, you got to purge it out because we're designed that way. We feel so much better. How do we find you?
So you can find me on my website, which is soulquestlifecoachingandenergyhealing.com, or email soulquestlifecoaching@gmail.com, Facebook, Soulquest Life Coaching and Energy Healing, and Instagram, soul.quest2020. So if anyone wants to, hasn't worked with me yet, I do give free discovery sessions, 30 minutes, just to get a feel and to see if we're a good fit.
And virtual, we can do that too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Most of my sessions are done, but once we connect, then we will arrange to do it through Zoom or in person if you're nearby.
Sure.
But I do most of my sessions on Zoom, just like this. Exactly.
Awesome. Great talking with you. Thanks for all the insight and everything today.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure as always.
As always, and I will talk to you next time we get together after I punch a pillow. And that's all good. All right. Be well. We'll talk soon.
Take care.
Coming right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.